Hi, I'm Donald Pitt, the founder and Managing Director of Quality Building Management. As you can see from this list, I hold a large number of licenses and qualifications to be able to discuss this topic with you today. I hold trade qualifications carpentry, joinery, wall plastering, and have been a registered builder since 1981. I have licensing to conduct and certify fire equipment, am a safety professional, a fire safety advisor, and a licensed asbestos assessor. The topic today we're going to discuss is fire safety for residential bodies corporate in Queensland. So what is 1851? Well, AS 1851 is an Australian standard for the servicing of fire equipment. There was a major review conducted on the old 2005 version, and that was released in 2012. And it's implemented or going to be implemented on 1st of January 2015. Now, all states reference 1851 except New South Wales and WA, but naturally they can reference the standard, of course. Now, 1851 is part of the suite of legislations that cover fire safety in Queensland. You've got the Building Fire Safety Regs, Queensland Development Code MP 6.1, Fire and Safety Rescue Act, the Building Code of Australia, and the Work Health and Safety Regulations. So what are the changes to 1851? So look, in a nutshell, there's less servicing. So there's less red tape, it's a little bit easier to read, and there's less servicing. As you can see from this list, for the sprinkler systems, there's no weekly, 3-yearly or 5-yearly testing. But there has been some upgrades. An evacuation plan, so under the Building Fire Safety Regs, there's a need to develop an evacuation plan. Now, in 1851, this has been updated for a review to be conducted every 6 monthly. But there's also still the need for an evacuation practice every 12 months. With 1851, there's also an allowance now for electronic logbook, so you don't need a hard copy, but what you do need is to have a summary log left on site if it is an electronic or a tag system. And fire doors for residentials only need to be tested every 12 months. So how does 1851 affect your body corporate? Well, if you have any of the following, there's less servicing. So make sure that the contractor you're using limits their servicing to the new standard. And make sure that they leave a logbook on site. And make sure that you have the emergency management plan in place. It's reviewed every 6 months, and you conducted an evacuation practice every 12 months. So what's the linkages between 1851 and the Building Fire Safety Regs and the Queensland Development Code? Well, in Queensland, all legislation is really well managed, and everything's been updated to account for the new Australian standard, 1851. So what MP 6.1, though, has taken out of the AS 1851 the need for the inspection of structural fire systems. So we're talking about firewalls and penetrations here. But 1851 does say that you still need to conduct some inspections, and I'll cover these here. So as you can see in red here, it talks about should periodically inspect the structural features so that they conform to the standard no less than which they were originally constructed. Thus, periodic inspections are required. And bear in mind that the QBCC have put firewalls, or the lack of construction of firewalls, as their #1 heartache. So firewalls and penetrations just aren't being constructed. So if you haven't been inspecting these firewalls, you may have a building where they were never constructed properly in the first place, and they're a major fire hazard. So where have bodies corporate been failing? Well, fire doors is a big one. Fire doors, in many instances, never been tested. And a lot of cases, they're in poor condition. Fire and evacuation plans haven't been reviewed, and evacuation practices haven't been done. And as I mentioned before, firewalls and penetrations have never been inspected. And maintenance records aren't being held on site. So what do you need to do? Well, firstly, you need to conduct an audit to ensure full compliance with 1851, the Building Fire Regs and MP 6.1. Develop a fire and evacuation plan if you're purely residential, or an emergency management plan if you've got commercial components on site. And these now under 1851 need to be reviewed every 6 months. And you must conduct that evacuation practice every 12 months. You must train all your people in the use of fire equipment and the evacuation procedures, and inspect firewalls and penetrations on a periodic basis. And ensure that all equipment, including fire doors, are serviced in accordance to 1851. And keep those records on site in either a fire cabinet or some other area where it won't be, or that they will be protected from the effects of fire. And send the occupier statement to the QFRS each 12 months. What if you don't comply? Look, there's legal considerations, of course. There's fines and penalties for non-compliance contained in all the legislation, and these are quite severe. But let's consider other items as well. What about insurance? If you don't comply, will your insurance cover you? Well, I put that question to the insurance companies, and their answer is, it depends. But what does it depends mean? Well, we don't know, and they certainly won't tell us. It may mean that they'll cover you, or they may not cover you. They may cover part of it where you are compliant, and they won't cover the areas that you're non-compliant. So are you really prepared to take that risk? Loss of possessions. Can all the possessions be replaced? And can the body corporate actually afford to replace all the items? But let's consider injury and loss of life. Let's pose this question. What money saving is the body corporate prepared to place on a person's life? So is the few $100s required for full compliance worth a serious injury? I'm Donald Pitt, and thank you for your time today.